All right, we are back with another amazing guest on the Scale with Pros podcast. And I have my friend Jakoby here. And if you're watching the video, he has his super cute dog hanging out with him in shot there. But Jakoby is the owner of McLean's RV dealer in Kerrville, Texas. And excited to have a conversation here. A lot of the business owners that I have on here, it's kind of a mixed bag. The last episode I just did with a SaaS founder that exited for had an 8-figure exit, and the one before that had built a real estate portfolio. And so it's fun having different conversations with different business owners and different niches. And the things that are interesting though, Jakoby, is a lot of the conversations are the same when it starts to come to the people side. It's like, okay, like how are they finding good people? How do they manage and build great teams and things like that? So I'd love for you to share with everyone kind of background history of how you got into this space and what led you to opening up this location, and catch us up to where you're at today.
Right on, man. Yeah, I appreciate you inviting me to do this. This will be fun, and
Yeah.
hopefully we can both learn a thing or two, and maybe some folks can get something out of the conversation. So, yeah, my name's Jakoby, and I am the owner and general manager of McLean's RV in Kerrville, Texas. Uh, Always been a salesman, always been of the entrepreneurial mindset. First time I met you, Cody, it was more like in passing, but it was in during our Vima days back in like, 2012, 13, 14, somewhere in there.
Yeah, the good old network
And
marketing days.
and I'll tell you, that was kind of my first taste of entrepreneurship, and what kind of opportunity is out there in the marketplace as somebody that's willing to go after it and go get it. I mean, I was a broke college kid and just saw, man, all I got to do is tell people about this opportunity and have them try this drink, and I can make money doing it. I'm like, I was all in. So, and then having Brandon Schwam, who's my best friend, best man at my wedding. I was the best man at his wedding. We were always been tight, and part of that is because of our similar mindset. Just we like making money, but adding value at the same time, and always been excited about being successful in business. So my first stint into uh, a position in the marketplace that is performance based was network marketing. I got into a company called Five Links, which was
Hmm.
essential services. Then got into and built a team of about 100 people. Never really made much money, but learned a lot. The training was incredible.
Hmm.
Then got into Vima and built a team of around 3,500 people,
Hmm.
and made a little bit. I worked as doing phone sales for trade show booths, and then one day in early 2014, I get a phone call from my uncle, and he says, "Hey, your aunt and I are going up to Iowa to pick up some motorhomes from Winnebago and drive them down. We're going to stop at the casino, and we're going to stop and see Jason Aldean, and I had a couple that was going with us, and they bailed. And if you want to come and join, it'll be a fun trip, and you can help us out by transporting some RVs."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Is it free?" And he's like, "Yeah." So I went and had a blast. And at the end of it, we're sitting around having dinner, and he says, "If you ever wanted to come sell RVs, I think you'd be pretty good at it." Now,
Hmm.
my uncle was living in Dallas Fort Worth, and I'm living in Orlando, Florida. So, uh, I kind of just let that thought, was like, "Oh, well, that's nice of him to say that." I'm, I'm building my, you know, network marketing business. And Vima started to kind of fade out, the team started dying off, wasn't really
Hmm.
making much money. Lease is coming up, and I call my mom and I'm like, I don't know if I really would want to do this, but Uncle Nate invited me to go sell RVs, and she's like, "Are you kidding me? You're the only kid in our family that would have the ability to carry on the family legacy. Like, you should do this, because this
Mm-hmm.
business was started by my grandparents in 1963. My uncle took over in the 90s and grew it to 5 stores.
Mm-hmm.
And we have at any given time 1,000 RVs in stock. We sell 200 to 300 RVs a month. We do around $20 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, can I really make any money doing this? Because I was naive. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
So I move out. I mean, I'm broke, so he pays for my moving truck. I've got this Nissan Xterra, '04 Nissan Xterra with no air conditioning. I'm towing it behind the moving truck, and I've got all my clothes in there. I play guitar, got my guitars in there, a banjo that was like a family heirloom. The Nissan Xterra catches fire just outside of Tallahassee on I-10 and burns to the ground.
Oh my gosh.
So I get to Texas, I've got no clothes, no car, no money, and I'm just, I just, you know, put it in God's hands, and just, I just get to work, man. I
It's
don't
like,
take didn't
great.
take Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. And we had traded the dealership had traded for a old Lincoln Navigator, an '02 Lincoln Navigator with like 150,000 miles on it. And I had an extra set of furniture from this rent house I was in. And my uncle said, "Well, your cousin, she's moving away to college and needs a bedroom set. I'll trade you that furniture for this car we just got." So I got some wheels, and I worked. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was excited. I was motivated, and ignorance on fire is better than knowledge on ice. So I just worked my ass off, man. Worked every single day, learned the compensation plan, and I didn't take days off. I didn't work shifts. I just hustled
Yeah.
and started making money. And I bought a house, fixed it up, lived in it for a year or two, ended up selling it and making a good chunk of money on it, and started working my way up through the company. Started taking on more responsibility, and moved into a sales management role, finance management role, general sales management role, and then ultimately here in July is when we came down and bought this location in Kerrville
So about a
from
year
another
ago.
family right at a year
Mhm.
ago. And my uncle and I had been talking about it now for two or so years. He kind of was like, if you're serious about growing the business, I want to grow the business, and we can work something out. So he put up the money. I'm putting in the sweat equity, and got a minority share in ownership. And we bought this location from a family that had been here in Kerrville for about 30 years. And they just had their business model was antiquated. There's a lot of things that we do to um, make money and not just sell RVs.
Yeah.
Um, so it's been fun. It's been hard work, you know, and I have some challenges now that are kind of next level challenges that I'm working on. But we're making money, man. We had our best month yet last month. We did, oh gosh, it was about 1.5 million in sales, and did 500,000 in gross profit and 100,000 in net profit. Last month for the month of June. This month we'll beat that. So, and we've had challenges along the way, quite a few, but things are going in the right direction. So,
That's awesome. I mean, there's always challenges. I'd love to find a business out there that's challenge free, and it just works great and everything's perfect all the time. Like that would be nice, but that's just
yeah,
not the
the
reality.
challenges are fun though, man. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it's like a puzzle to me,
Yeah.
figuring it out.
Yeah. That's how I agree on that, because it's like it's I was joking with I have a buddy here that has like a mobile tire repair company, and
Oh yeah.
we were talking, about a week ago, and I was really telling him because like one of the things I'm really focused on right now is buying other, home service companies, specifically just recurring
Hmm.
revenue ones, like anything that has some sort of recurring revenue. And I bought this residential cleaning company last summer, and this last year we've been able to double it, and really increase profitability, and it's growing month over month. And I've been kind of getting bored because that's going well. There's partners that run it, so I'm like, and I'm trying to get another deal, and I'm like, I need something else to fix. Like I need something to fix and
Yep.
like and to work on. I can't I don't sit still well. I think I can keep things going, and it's like that business is going, it's growing, the partners are great, and like that's moving along. And I'm like, I need to find a new deal. Like tomorrow, I'm getting on with a pool maintenance company that they have like 400 recurring accounts, and so we're trying to work out a partnership deal there. And I'm like excited for the
There
next
you
thing to
go.
fix. But I think that's the sicko part of being an entrepreneur is like I don't know, I feel like we thrive in chaos a little bit, and finding the next thing to fix.
Is that just there in Arizona, or is it kind of spread out?
Yeah, so we're just focused on as far as acquisitions. Like the first acquisitions that I'm trying to do are just Arizona. So I want to do 4 different industries. So the residential cleaning's one. I'm looking for pest. I'm looking at pool maintenance. So maybe this deal works out, maybe it doesn't. But recurring revenue stuff here locally, and then with our cleaning company, we're actually looking at expanding into Texas, actually into Dallas, where we have an NDA out on a deal out in Dallas, that more specifically in Frisco area, and so
Hmm.
we're wanting to expand there, and then do the Texas Triangle, Dallas, Houston, Austin. I think is where
Yeah.
eventually expand into those areas. But yeah, so that's something we're working on right now, and excited to expand. So I'd be curious because obviously this is something that through your uncle with the expansion of multiple locations. And for the listeners that maybe they have, whether it's brick and mortar, they're expanding multiple locations, or whether it's some sort of service-based business, maybe they're expanding to multiple locations. What are the challenges that you saw maybe in expanding into this one? Obviously, it was through acquisition, and then fixing up some of those antiquated systems that were there. What were some of the challenges that you found, and how would you maybe make some recommendations for people to more successfully move into those different markets or locations?
Well, people is the biggest challenge, and
Mm-hmm.
people make the business. So, in my business, we really operate for almost 5 businesses in one. We have sales department operates as a business, finance department operates as a business, service department, and parts department, and then kind of real estate, but not really, and because there's no management required
Right.
with that, and so you have to. For me, if I don't have the right person in place in my service department to run it and to manage it and to hire people and lead people, it's it won't make money. I mean, it's not going to run. And I made that mistake in the very beginning by hiring the wrong service manager. And so the guy said all the right things and had the right background, had the right history, was a good dude, just a nice person, and I mean, godly man. He was really, and that's important to us. I mean, we're a faith based organization, so that was important to us, but it just wasn't. It just didn't work out. He just wasn't the right guy, and so being able to know, and he made all and somebody that's smart that you put in a leadership role usually will be able to blame their shortcomings on excuses, and numbers don't lie. So if you know your numbers and you know your processes and you're not seeing the results, it's probably the person that's in charge of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got to take you got to kill the snake by by taking off its head.
Yeah.
And so that's probably, with this business, there was a lot of things that were obvious to us. One, they only sold motorhomes.
Yeah.
Well, about 70% of our business is towable RVs, fifth wheels and travel trailers.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an obvious fix just from looking at the
Yeah.
business. Number two, their finance department was not a finance department. They had two banks and they didn't really sell extended coverage
Yeah.
options. So, boom, there's another big opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Three, their service department only serviced the sales department. Well, that's, why would you do that? And their parts department didn't sell parts to retail customers. So those are all like
Yeah.
easy, obvious things, right?
Yeah.
And but if you don't have a person in there that knows that and knows how to get to the end goal, that's what's really tough. And in our business, there's a lot of expansion, a lot of dealers that are going and buying dealerships all over the place, and I'm just like, man, how do you? It's mind boggling to me because if I wasn't here in Kerrville running this dealership, it would be uh, a crap show. Sorry, I don't know if you care if I cuss or not,
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
it would be a shit show. I
Yeah.
mean, and so that's one of my challenges right now is like, okay, well, I don't want to have to be at the dealership, you know, 60 hours a week in order for us to make money.
Yeah.
I need to try to replace myself. But the tough part is, and maybe you can speak to this, is
Mm.
at what point, how do you find somebody that has the skill set to replace you in that role,
Yeah.
but and pay them and still make money?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you were to go, Cody, if you were to go to any type of leadership role with any of the businesses that you have, or any, you would do a good job at it, right?
Yeah.
But 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 it wouldn't in order to pay what you need to be paid, you wouldn't be able to be profitable. You know what I mean? What your time is worth and your skill set is worth. So that's the challenge that I'm having right now is I've got a good service manager in place that is making
Mm-hmm.
money and the
Yeah.
department's making money. Now my sales and whatnot is all on my back right now. So I'm working on trying to find somebody that can handle more than just the sales management role, and make a check, and the company still remain profitable.
Yeah. So it's like you're looking for like a general manager at this point, or just sales manager. I just want to make sure
Yeah,
I'm clear on the role.
more like sales and finance. I've got a guy that has the experience that's is my finance manager, but and he's kind of my backup on the sales side of things,
Mm-hmm.
but he's not a leader. He's not a motivational kind of guy. He's not an inspirational kind of guy. He's a Debbie Downer,
Yeah. You don't
bad
want that
attitude.
at you don't want that at the home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. For sure. So it's a great points on that. And I have. Within a few of the different businesses, I don't sit on the org chart for any of the companies besides my consulting company. There's a different person that I've put in place or, brought in to run those. And so it's kind of like reverse engineering the numbers. So like one of the things that I always focus on is like in building out the actual financial model for the business. Like one is like getting down to like the unit level economics of like the different things that are being sold and the widgets and like, okay, are we getting the pricing down? So, you know, making sure that that's right. So like in like they'll take like the cleaning company, for example, like in the cleaning company, it's like one car, two cleaners, they need to generate $14,000 a month, and that's their number. And so it's like everyone we have to see that or we don't keep growing. It's like if we're sliding on some of the cars, we stop growing, we hit the caution, and we say, hey, we gotta fill these routes, make sure we're at that revenue, and then we kind of keep stair stepping up the growth. So it's like the smallest level of the business, like making sure like everything is priced appropriately from like a gross profit standpoint, and then the SG&A costs, all the sales, general administration, and marketing cost is at a healthy range for the business, and then building the model for having like that type of person be able to come in and make sure that the business actually can do it. and actually can
Hmm.
afford it. And so, with like replacing, some of these roles, one, it's like, okay, making sure the model actually works. And then if the model works, then it's just growing it to like the right size where we can afford that person to actually bring them in. And with bringing in the right type of person, like, one, it comes back to, for us, it's always like, okay, what's the company's mission? What's our mission? What's our vision, our core values? Like you were saying,
Hmm.
some of the values, alignment there. And then we want to make sure through our hiring processes, especially in like key leadership roles, there's the ideal team player framework of like humble, hungry, people smart, making sure we
Yep.
have that, especially again in that key leader role. But the other thing I would look at too is like, depending on like margins and the business is, okay, well, what would have to be true to hire, like what is the comp for someone that would come in and backfill that role? Like, obviously you may pay yourself more because you're the owner, so like that might be variable there. But like, what is the comp that you would pay someone to come do that role in the business right now?
Yeah, a good uh, general sales manager or just sales manager would need to earn a really good one would need to earn probably 240 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Is that just in base, or is that like base plus bonus plus, performance, maybe profit share?
yeah, so managers are paid, generally speaking, in the dealership business is usually like a base salary, which would be 2 or 3 grand a month, and then paid a percentage of gross and net profit.
Okay.
So for the month. So and that percentage is kind of the variable. That's what you
Okay.
can
Yeah.
typically. I mean, you can play with the salary number a little bit too, but for a sales department, I don't want my total personnel cost to be more than 21% of
Mm-hmm.
my gross profit, including
Yep.
salespeople, right? So their
Yep.
compensation plan is tiered based on how many they sell. And then the sales managers are just usually, sometimes there's a grid. We can do like a grid where if they, hit a certain unit count for the month, they'll get a little bigger piece of the pie.
Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking, it's a percentage of the gross profit and a percentage of the net profit.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay. So they are tied to that already. So
Hmm.
I guess it's just like, when looking at it is like, what is the, like, I guess just more so re-engineering the math of, okay, well, what does the business have to do and, top line, and then in actual gross profit to be able to afford that actual
Right.
role, and then still spitting out like the general rule of thumb, like across industries that we work with on like our consulting side, is we're like, okay, 30/20/10 rule is what like baseline that we shoot for, which is like 30, we want to see 30% gross profit on the business, 20% max on like the SG&A expenses, and then spitting out at least 10% net, after obviously like even like owner salary of like a fair
Yeah.
market
After
salary is being paid.
variable.
Yeah, yeah, like having all of that, and then working up. And so I guess in that location, like, are those kind of like in range with that current location?
No, the margins on dealerships are much less.
Okay.
If in sales specifically, and that's kind of what I'm focusing on at the
Yeah.
moment is we ideally we want to be at about a 12 to 15% gross,
Mm,
and then net would be um, maybe 2 to 5%
got it.
um, of sales dollars of
Yeah.
revenue.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Interesting. Yeah. So yeah. So that obviously on the margins there being thinner, makes it more challenging. But
Hmm.
you know, I mean, looking at the business overall, like, I guess I would just look at it as like, what makes it worthwhile for you to own that location and take home if you weren't working in the business day to day. And it's like, maybe if
Yeah.
you made a little bit less money, but someone else was running the business day to day, and then you could maybe, I don't know, it's like, do you just go open another location, or do you focus on
Right.
seeing other, money making opportunities to, monetize at this location, and you like give those plans to your, the manager that you backfill to run the day to day? I
Yeah.
guess, yeah. Like, what's the goal with it
Well, I
overall?
mean, my Feet Finder subscriptions are picking up, so that could definitely offset. We're building another store right now, actually, and that's I'm kind of grooming one of my sales guys to start taking on more responsibility. I really like one of the most rewarding things for me in a leadership role is taking somebody from a starting
Like
level and
individual contributor to,
like there's I don't know there's it's well I mean it's so rewarding seeing
yeah,
somebody like I got this guy. He was an electrician for 10 years. He's a younger guy, but he was an electrician,
yeah,
and his name's Brett. And so Brett, he'd never done any kind of sales, especially 100% commission sales.
yeah,
But he had like flipped stuff on the side, like motorcycles and cars and things like that. And I'm like, okay, so he knows how to haggle and negotiate and like deal with people.
mm-hmm,
Well, this guy has grown into a incredible salesperson,
mm-hmm,
and he's hungry. He wants more responsibility. He's smart too, man. He's super smart. And so like developing this guy, he'd never made more than like 60 or 80 grand a year,
yeah,
and he'll make probably 150 grand this year.
yeah,
And doesn't have a college education. He was an electrician,
yeah,
so um that part of it is is fun, man. I'll tell you what. I don't know
yeah.
why I went off on that tangent there, but
Well, you're saying you're opening another location, so like, is it like the
yeah,
goal to make, it's like maybe he could grow into managing that one or the new one
yeah,
that you open, or
hmm yeah. What will the kind of the mindset at this point, and it could change, but the mindset at this point is I'll work over here in Kerrville, maybe 1 or 2 days a week, and then uh, be primarily focusing on the new dealership that we're building.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that one is going to be from the ground up, so it's going to be a lot of work, but
yeah,
once they're firing on all cylinders, man, I tell you what, it'll be a moneymaker.
yeah. So yeah, I guess like I'm not an expert in the dealership space whatsoever, obviously. I just think about it's like what is what's like the perfect model when it's like, built out like per location. It's like, do you, because I that's what I think about like in that reverse engineering. It's like, okay, you grow a location to do, I don't know, it's 5 million or 10 million a year, and it should be in gross profit doing this and net profit doing this, and that's after we account for, bringing in that general manager, or maybe it's, for a time it's has to be at a certain amount. We bring in the general manager, profitability dips, but working
Hmm.
with that general manager over 6 to 12 months, then it comes back up because now they're helping grow it to that next level. Like that's
Yeah.
what, like what's like that you know look like for us, like on like the cleaning company, it's like each car, it's like should generate that, so then we know in like one location, like under supervisors, we should generate this much revenue, and we can go and pop that up and different markets now going forward. Like what's that for this business?
Well, there's a couple different metrics to look at. Number one, inventory turns, so in an amount of inventory on the ground.
Yeah.
You want to turn your new inventory on average every 3 to 4 months. So you don't want your inventory sitting on the lot for an extended period of time by any means, right?
Yeah.
So you need to equip your inventory based on turns, but then also based on customers coming through the door and internet inquiries and phone calls.
Hmm.
So each salesperson on average should see 25 customers per month.
Hmm.
They should uh, get on paper or write up 40% of the opportunities that they have, and they
Mm.
should sell 25% in a perfect world,
Yeah.
right? And exceptional salespeople will exceed those numbers, and the average will hit them, and then guys that probably shouldn't be selling won't hit those numbers.
Yeah.
So, um, so that, you know, you can look at floor traffic, phone traffic, e-com, and you can look at, you know, of course, a market. Right now, like, you know, I should be at around 4 salespeople, whereas I have 3. So you know, I know I need to hire one more salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
Inventory, I'm low on stock right now, but I can pull from the other locations, which kind of helps offset that.
Yeah.
And I'm at a point where I could afford a you know, a sales manager, but I
Mm-hmm.
really just don't want to. I mean, right now last month we uh, we grossed $30,000 per employee, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and so um, where I could afford to go down to like 20,
Yeah.
18 to 20.
Yeah.
And so, um, yeah, it's a tough, you know, I'm right in the middle. I just need to make the decision and just do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's
But
always the hard part. Is like, because then it's like you're like reducing profitability, but if it's like that clear path is there to then, you know,
expand and
expand, and then it's like, okay, now the aggregate of a couple locations is, you know, now a lot more, and you don't have to
yeah,
be in it every day, day to day, and you know, that's
yeah.
in the service space, what I've seen, and you know, it's again different from uh, the, you know, dealership space. But there's like this interesting thing that happens in this like 1 to 3 million a year range that I've seen over and over again, like working with other client companies and then also internal companies that I've grown. Is this 1 to 3 million a year range is like this weird no man's land where a business has to, like an owner has to work so much harder and so many more hours in that range, or the other option is they then hire like the talent that they know they need to grow, but then they take a step back in profitability to then get over that like 3 4 million a year hump, and then they start, you know, they get that profitability back that they were used to getting and then some. But it's like
Hmm.
it's like they either like force push through this like up to 3 million plus range on their own and they're working freaking 60 70 hours a week, or they take a step back in profitability and then work with that, you know, leader that they bring in to peel some of that time back. But you know, it's like there's like this, it's like this both sides kind of suck, and it's like which option do you take, and you know, then getting
Hmm.
past it as quickly as possible. And so it kind of sounds like a similar thing in your space, but like that's like kind of a revenue range that I see that over and over again for like service based business owners.
Well, and there's also kind of a, I've noticed within myself is there's a kind of a trust thing too.
Mm,
You know, like, do I really trust someone to?
to be able to do it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been around this my whole life, you know, and I've
Yeah.
kind of worn all the hats and, you
Yeah.
know, didn't know what to do and know how it's supposed to. And so, you know, it's like, and in fact, I'll tell you that being in a family business is an interesting dynamic, man. Like my uncle and I kind of have the same challenges, you know, because
Mm,
this is the first time he's ever let, you know, somebody since he's been running things take on any kind of ownership.
yeah.
And, you know, he's kind of always had everything,
Yeah.
you know, in his control, and he still does, but like, you know, for him to trust me is a big thing. And, you know, we've had our own challenges, and it's made for some awkward conversations, and, you
Yeah.
know, going from uncle and nephew to you know, partners. It's kind of a weird deal.
Yeah, you have to go
But
back and forth between putting on the like nephew hat and then putting on the partner hat. Like you have to like
yeah.
literally like shift back and forth between those.
Hmm. But it's been good. I feel like we manage it very well.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Yeah,
I don't.
the it's interesting like with the, obviously it's like any key hire, it's a challenge to bring in. I'm you know, and I don't know what the process looks like, but I'll just share for, you know, the listeners on here. Like one of the things that we do when we're building out for like, obviously it's like we want to build a job description of like what are those key responsibilities, to actually do. So like one of the things we do is we have like an external job description that we actually like market out to the world of people that we're potentially going to look to hire. And then we have
Mm-hmm.
our internal job description where what we do on this one, and this is where it's like really this one's super important, is where it's creating clarity as a clarity of role, clarity of goals, and then clarity as a whole. So like in
Mm-hmm.
this internal JD that we build, in this like clarity of role, like we write out like a what success looks like description for the specific role, and then under that we'll write out like clarity of goals. So like if we're going to bring in whatever this new team member is, we'll clearly define in writing like what the what success would look like for their first 30 days, first 60 days, first 90 days. And then below that, clarity as a whole is like what functions they own and control and what functions that they don't own or control. So like there might be certain functions that you still own as them stepping into that role, and then the things that they're actually fully taking on, and it's like they have full decision power of executing on some of those things. So like that's one
Mm-hmm.
of the things with like some of like the higher level roles that's been helpful for me. And then having consistent one-on-ones too, like all of my direct reports, it's like one-on-ones every week, specific agenda, wins the last week, the goals or any projects that they're working on, checking in on those, and then coaching them, and then we have that conversation, establishing the action items. So I found that to be super helpful in creating like consistent clarity and making sure that there's like progress actually moving forward. But I like my CFO, for example, like I understand the control thing. I remember, so I was in Utah. This is like 2 years ago with my coach. His name's Jeff Mask. He's my leadership coach, and he helped grow Infusionsoft to over 100 million a year. And we were in the car, and I remember going under this underpass. We were going to, I think somewhere in Park City to go and like zip line or something. But we were talking about, and I was like approving like some payment transfer on my phone, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, like I gotta like hit the approve on payments still for the different companies because I'm controlling that still." And
Mm-hmm.
he's just like he just starts laughing. I was like, what are you laughing about? He's like, "Why are you doing that?" And I was like, "What do you mean? Like money's being paid out. We're sending out wires or we're sending out ACHs, and like I'm just doing a quick check, making sure like we're good." And he went into this, and basically it came down to, he's like, these are all just your limiting beliefs of that someone else must be an idiot because like only you are the special
Yeah.
snowflake that knows how to do quality checks on the finance and making sure that there's not fraudulent activity going on. And I like what had to go through, but like that was like a mental thing that I struggled with. And then we ended up putting some things into place where we have this like two-factor system where it's like no person can send money on their own within our companies. One person can initiate something and another person has to be the one to approve it from their bank portal. So there's no like one person, sending it out. There has to be a double check on all of the money movements that happen. And that was something that helped me there. And now I'm like, wow, like I can't believe I used to do that, because now it's been, probably a year and a half, and it's but like that was something I held on to for so many years, because I was just like, it's moving money, and now it's like I don't move any money anymore and pay anything anymore. But it was getting clear on like, again, it was like what success looked like, and like part of that plan that I worked on, like I already had the CFO at that point, but we built a plan of all of my fears and anxieties to like, okay, well, if there's money movement over this amount, I need to know about it. And, then like
Mm-hmm.
after a short period, I was like, I don't really care anymore to know about it. If it's that amount, like raise the amount. So it's like those types of things over time, like the trust gets more and more built, and, the visibility is there to know. And, we always know it's like who is going to move what money where. And so it's, I don't know. I think there's definitely, it's some limiting belief, but like I shared in that same limiting belief of like, oh, like how are they going to be able to do this? And now my team has
Yeah.
an even better process than, what I was doing, like where they just do certain things at certain days of the week where we were just sporadically doing it as when's Cody going to be available on his phone to just click the approve and so it could actually get sent out.
So, walk me through your one-on-ones. What's that look like?
Yeah, so our one-on-ones, I have a simple template. I could send it to you after. And for everyone listening, you could just go to scalewithpros.com/resources, get our template there. But it's very simple. It's when we go into the one-on-one, I have 45 minutes blocked out for them. Most of the time they don't take that long, depends on the role and like what big
Hmm.
projects we might be working on. But in that specific one-on-one that happens weekly, but no less frequently than every other week, like my head of ops, I meet with weekly. My CFO, it's like every 2 weeks because we don't have as much stuff that we're like constantly like working on project wise together, or that I'm needing to check in on. And so we start the one-on-one. I always start with positive focus, like because there's every time that you get into a one-on-one conversation, like we could always talk about the 25 things that aren't going well, and like
Right.
John over here did this stupid thing and this and some tech thing. And so it's like we start with the positive focus. So it's literally what's going well, and have them share like what's gone well from the last week, so we could start it off in a positive way. We do a quick PPF check-in, which is personal, professional, financial goal check-in. So after someone's been a team member for at least 90 days, I do goal planning with them, where we do like 1 year, 2 year, 3 year goals with them, and then we put that into our one-on-one doc. And literally on our doc, we have like a little drop down where it's like where they're able to mark their progress of personal, professional, financial, and then it's like on track, in progress, roadblock, or need help, or something like that. And so we do a quick goal check-in, make sure that they're moving forward with the goals in their life that they're going after. And then we
Hmm.
have a quick rock check-in. We run off EOS, so like basically quarterly goals that may be
What's
assigned to them.
EOS?
Entrepreneurial operating system.
Oh.
Have you ever heard of the book Traction?
Yeah, I've read it.
Okay.
Listen to it. Yeah, like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
So
good one.
so so that's what that operating system that they teach about in there is how we're like 60% EOS, that system that they have, and then I have some other things that we do that are outside of that from other mentorships I've been a part of and other coaches, and I kind of have like my like
Hmm.
you know mix match of things that I like and didn't like and put together. And so every as far as like leadership team members, like their actual quarterly goals that they have, that's like another thing we do a quick check-in on in the one-on-one. It's like, all right, like, and we literally spend barely any time on it unless they need help, because they have a drop down to just say all of my quarterly objectives are on track, or if they're not on track, then hey, we're going to talk about it. How do we get this back on track? How could I help support you? How, like, are you having a roadblock? Sometimes it's like, yeah, I can't get this person in this other department to do this thing, so it's causing me to not be able to get my milestone done. Oh my gosh, well, let me go see how I can help remove that obstacle and get you what you need so we can get this back on track. And so that's, the next part. And then we just have two sections that, below that, where it's like team member is able to, prepare notes before the meeting, and then leader prepare notes before the meeting of just things like maybe I have ideas I want to run by them. Maybe I have some new plans that I want to get implemented that I need their help
Hmm.
on. Maybe it's coaching feedback from, maybe they did something that wasn't ideal in the past week, and I need to have a coaching conversation. Like that's also that space for me to have that. And then also for them to, ask for feedback, ask for help, support, in any way that they may need to, continue forward. And then the last part of it is we have another team member leader section where it's just team member action items from this specific one-on-one, and then leader action items from this specific one-on-one for to be completed by the next time we have our one-on-one. And it's that same thing over and over again, each week or every other week, depending on the team member. And so that has been one of the most instrumental things we've done, even though sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't want to do one-on-ones. It's just because it's just another thing to have to do, but it keeps
Right.
the train on the tracks, and which has been super helpful. And I do it with all my direct reports, and then it's a required thing that all of my leaders do it with their direct reports, and so on.
And so how do you hold people accountable on that kind of thing?
Yeah,
You
like as
know,
far as their like how their one-on-ones are going.
mm-hmm.
I mean, we'll check in with them like in the one-on-ones. Like I could see like everyone on my team that I can see their calendars. Like I can just go into, Google Calendar and I could type in like, John, and I could see on his calendar the one-on-ones that he has scheduled. So I can go in and actually see that, those one-on-ones are actually on the calendar. And I'll check in on them too and ask like how's it going with Bob and your one-on-ones, or so and so on your
Mm-hmm.
one-on-ones. And you know so it's talked about super regularly, but I'm going to see it on the calendar. And if they're just putting it on the calendar and then not actually doing it, it starts to show up in performance pretty quickly, because we notice that things are sliding. And it's like, okay, how, like when that was addressed in your last one-on-one with Bob, like how did it go?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, like we've skipped the last couple. Okay, so what are we going to make sure gets back on the calendar this upcoming week? We have to treat these just like we treat, if you were going to meet with a client or, a customer, or whatever, this is just as important as meeting with the client and having it on the calendar. And so it's a regularly communicated thing all the time in the organization, because I'm doing my one-on-ones and then asking how things are going and their specific team members one-on-ones. And where performance issues start to come up is when they're not doing their one-on-ones. And that usually it's like, okay, well, how are you addressing that in the one-on-ones? Oh, well, we fell off the last couple of weeks, but we've been really busy with this project, and look at all the progress we've made on this project. Great, but we need to be doing the one-on-ones.
Yeah, I think that's big, man.
It,
Yeah, I
it
have
allows a
one-on-ones on
space.
my, yeah, I don't do it. I don't meet with my people enough. I
It,
just
it,
realized that today. We had one with a couple I had one with my finance manager and my service manager, and it was such a good, like so valuable. And I'm like, why have I been not doing this the way I know it's important?
Yeah.
But
It's one of those things that sits like we have like the matrix of things that are important and urgent, important, not urgent. And then we have things that are not important, but kind of urgent, like interruptions from team members. And we have, not important and not urgent. Like
yeah,
it's like we have these categories of importances, and this is one of those that sits in the important, but not urgent
right.
section on that. And so that's where it can kind of just fall to the wayside, and where we have to like keep those on track. Like I'm looking at mine for like my CFO. I just opened it up just to like talk you through like the format. I literally
Hmm.
have like our last one was on July 16th, so we did it yesterday, all the way through back into 2022 every week.
Wow. And you have all the notes and everything
Yeah,
from
all
those
the notes from every
conversations.
single date
What are
from.
you use? And that's in that what program are
So,
you?
so
Is that
this
just
this
Google
isn't an
Docs
EOS
or is
thing.
it?
Yeah, we just use Google Doc. So literally, we've tried fancy stuff. It's just like we just have a simple thing. So
Yeah.
like I just do within Google Drive. Like I have like Cody's direct reports, and then within that Google Drive, under that tab, I have each of my direct reports names. Bin one-on-ones, and then within that I have his personal, professional, financial goals. I also have our one-on-one doc template in there as well. And then if there's like coaching resources or things that I want to share with him, I'll drop those into that drive as well. So we have all of those coaching resources in one place. And we just do the same template. It's very non-fancy. It's just we copy, we
Yeah.
paste it at the top of it. So that's the next one for the next time that we meet. And it's just every week
Hmm.
we just, but then you could scroll down and see like past actions, and, you know, you can reference back to things that may be recurring conversations of like, hey, we talked about this on May 27th, still an issue. We talked about it on June 2nd, still an issue. Like, we got to do something different. It's like it allows for that. But I think most importantly, it allows for the relationship building and trust building between you and the team member, and for them to bring ideas of improving the organization. Like a lot of these conversations, when we're not going through like, crazy changes or massive projects, are how can we improve what we're doing in your department? Like what are the things that we could be working on? Like what books you're reading? Last week, like I'm just going back to July 7th on the coaching I did with my CFO Ben. There was a book that I read with some different financial tracking that I wanted to implement into what we're doing, and so I was like, hey, like I want to buy you this book. I'm gonna get this sent to you, and so I want you to read it, so then we can
Hmm.
implement from this book. So it's like that's what it's for. It's not so it's like it's coaching, it's getting feedback, it's for them to in big team meetings, people don't always want to share their real feedback because they're nervous or scared. They don't want to offend people. And it also creates that safe space for that type of feedback as well.
I like that. That's smart.
Yeah,
That's
it's
smart.
game changer, dude. Like it seems like such a simple thing, but consistently over time, the relationships built with the team, the trust built with the team, and whenever we implement it into the different companies that we're working on, it's like people are like, wow, like I thought this was just going to be just another dumb meeting on my calendar, but like I'm actually like getting more real true feedback from my team for us to actually make improvements and make real changes, and more importantly, that coaching that you can give them. It's like, here's a new book,
Hmm.
checking in, how's the book going, what have you learned, what are you going to take from that we can then implement into the business? Or if it's like some of your sales roles, what sales books are you reading right now? What's the
Yeah.
last one? What are you taking away? One of the things that you've been having a challenge with in your sales performance is, I don't know, it's like mirroring and matching. Maybe it's like, okay,
Right.
that's a book that, this is the next book for you to read, so we can practice on that. And then that, so it's just like that's what those more so start to become.
So how many direct reports do you currently have?
So right now I have Ben, Adriana, Zach, Ryan, Matthew, my EA, Rochelle. So 6.
You think that's about, are you at capacity at that point, having six,
Oh,
or is
seven,
it?
seven. Never mind. I have Owen, but I just brought in a sales manager, so he's going to be taking on him and then hiring another couple sales reps. But then the sales manager will be to me. So 7. It's 7. But I think 7 to 8 is like a good sweet spot. Too
Hmm.
much more, and then it's kind of hard to keep track of everyone and what
Yeah.
everyone's doing and all of their individual KPIs and performance. And so I like that amount. 7 to 8, I think, is a good spot. Depending on the role, though, it can be a little bit different. Like if one sales
Sure.
manager, they can manage, I think, 8 to 10 sales reps, because
Yeah.
it's that. I don't think that that's an issue. But as like a general manager or running as like the CEO,
Right.
or director level, I don't think much more than that. Because it's hard to keep up. Like you want to be able to, like, what I like is, I want everyone to be able to, whoever they have reporting to them, they should be able to know them, their significant other's name. If they have
Right.
kids, like they should know enough where they're not getting on and they're like, there's no rapport. There needs to
Yeah.
be enough rapport that's built and relationship building built. So
Yeah. I am in 100% agreement with you. So if we have time, I wanted ask you one other thing, and I have my own uh, thoughts on this topic
yeah.
too. But hiring, what walk me through what you look for in a candidate, and how do you know if somebody's going to be a good fit for working with you?
Um, what type of role? Because I change our hiring process is a little bit different for like a manager or director level. We
Hmm.
have a different hiring process than like a individual contributor. Uh,
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean that part's pretty fun. Pretty elementary. I'd say more so for somebody that's going to have some legitimate responsibility, you know, so, or maybe
Yeah.
not to undermine somebody that's on the
Yeah.
front lines,
Like
but
your manager,
that,
director above, there's like key
hmm
decisions. There's like maybe big financial decisions involved, like that type of stuff. Yeah. So the hiring process, you know, my favorite platform to hire on is on Indeed. Like we just have had the
hmm
best success with hiring on Indeed. And
me too.
um, so the first thing is, you know, going back to what we talked about, building a really great job description with the key responsibilities extremely clear, building the internal job description before we start hiring as well. So we're clear on what does success look like, which is really a statement of what is the problem that this role is solving. Otherwise, if we're not super clear on what the problem that we're solving with this role is, we're not going to go and start hiring for the role. Because in the interview process, like once we get to like a final stage of an interview, I want to make sure I've clearly communicated these what success looks like, which means what are the problems that will be solved by hiring this role, and that's clear and in writing. And I have the goals of what I want accomplished in that role, first 30, 60, 90 days, clarity as a whole. So like that's the first step. So like we want to make sure that with the higher level roles or entry level, we do it on both. But
Sure.
we have that posted Indeed, applicants coming in, initial interview, cultural interview. So, you know, we have our core values and the cultural interviews, 10, 15-minute phone call usually, you know, with whoever's doing the recruiting, the manager, you know, or if they're going to be passing that up to someone else to listen to, then they'll do it on a quick Zoom so they could record it and then pass their favorite ones to the next person that's going to be doing the interview process. So cultural interviews, the first part, very simple, just basic questions, getting to know them, asking questions around core values and just trying to gauge alignment there. Like, you know, you're a faith-based company, like you know, probably disclosing in that, hey, we're a faith-based company. You know, one of the things like you'd sign a disclosure that you're okay with that and that's not going to be a problem. And like, you know, so it's like you're kind of gauging and just feeling that out on the cultural side first. Because if someone's amazing technically, but they're a train wreck on the culture, they're not going to work. So we always start
Right.
with culture. We make sure that that's there. If culturally they pass that, they move to the technical part of the interview, which technical is different for every role. But let's say, for example, like if we're hiring like a video editor, we don't look at their portfolios much. So it's like I don't care what fake portfolio they might have stole from someone else. Like we give them, you know, a project. We're like, hey, here's a video. We want you to turn one long form, a couple short form things, and we want to see your work. So here's this raw footage. We'd like to see it by this time, this date, and this is the technical part of your interview so we can technically vet that you can do this job.
Mm.
And so sometimes in that people will give pushback and they're like, I'm not going to do that. And it's
Yeah.
like, wow, like you're already not willing to do freaking a test for this job. Like how much of a pain in the ass are you going to be once you're in the job if I can't even get you to do something to get the opportunity? It's like I'm going to invest money and time into you. Like I'm just trying to vet out that you know what you're doing. So video editing example there. Finance role. One of the things that we do, we hired a new finance team member. This was some months ago. You know, and what we did was, you know, it was actually interesting. We hired the one that had the lower title of these three candidates that made it to the technical part of this interview. And the gal that came in, basically what we did was we had Ben, my CFO, had, you know, just basically like a jumbled QuickBooks. Like it was messed up, things weren't categorized correctly, you know, and then he wanted them to create a closing checklist of how the financials should be closed out for this this sample company. And so they came into the interview, they didn't know that's what the interview was, and it's like, all right, here's the computer, here's the problem, here's the QuickBooks that they allegedly have experience in. What we want you to do is this part of the interview for the next, you know, hour is going through. We want you to clean up these books, and we want you to create a closing checklist for this. And that's the technical part of the interview. And
Mm.
so that became that part of the interview. And so like you could create that for any sort of role that you'd want to vet out that technical experience. And it was funny because the candidate we were leaning towards that had the better resume actually didn't set that process up correctly. And we hired someone else that was a lower title, but actually did it correctly because we went
Mm.
through that part of the process. So we vet out on the technical ability in the second part of the interview for, again, those, as you get into the higher level role. And then third part of the interview, if it's, director level, even managers, depending, is we'll do a panel interview with usually, 2 to 3 people. And like, let's say, for example, we were going to hire a new director of finance. I would be bringing in, who are the 2 people that are going to be interacting with this person on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and having to get along with them and make sure that that's a good fit and a good mesh. So I bring them into the interview. So maybe it's like the head of operations, and maybe it's I don't know, some marketing role, whatever the other role is that would need to get along with that
Right.
person, and that they're going to work regularly together. And so we have them come in, and I have them ask specific questions to how they are going to interact. Like, hey, like, if you provide this report to me in this way, like, how would you handle that? Or if I got you the wrong information here, like, how would you go about communicating this back? And so it's kind of, we're testing out now. It's like, we tested culture, we tested technical. Now we're testing, like, what is the actual likelihood that this person's going to, now mesh in with the people that they're going to be working with on a day-to-day basis. And we're, asking a little bit deeper questions, probing around, like, ambition within the role, where they're wanting to go, sharing more of, like, okay, this is what we're trying to accomplish. This is what eventually this role could be. Not a promise, but this is where we'd like it to be if we achieve these goals. So that's where we go into that. And then, interview ends, and, the 3 team members typically, discuss and have a rating. We have an interview scorecard that we use. So each of them has a scorecard that are scored on the same rating, so that it's not like all across the board. And so each of them scores, and that at the end, then they all share what they scored in those areas and why. And then at the end of the day, that hiring manager for that department is the one that makes the decision. But, they're obviously going to get influenced in positive or negative from the other people, because they want to make sure that there's going to be a mesh. So that's how we'll, on those more higher level roles, how we'll go through that process to actually making the offer to the candidate.
Man, that is smart.
So that's through pain and suffering.
Yeah. Wow. I like that. I'm trying to, my gears are turning, and I can see how that would fit for, a lot of roles within our company, but sales manager, that's a tough one for the technical side.
Oh, here's
I
how
mean,
I do it. No, dude.
yeah, I want to hear.
Yeah. So technical sales manager, right? So what are the things that you want a good sales manager to do? You want them to be able to coach, train, and, mentor and get people up to performance, or coach them out, or coach them up. You want them coaching up or coaching out, and and making sure you're hitting your numbers, right? Like, at the end of the day, that's what you're wanting to do. So I'm going to test for how they're going to solve problems when there's non-performance. So I'm going to give them, like, okay, you have 4, sample, like, you have 4 sales reps. These are the minimum KPIs that we need to be hitting on as a company. You have 2 sales reps underperforming, 2 sales reps that are performing at KPI. How are you going to address working with these 2 sales reps, these 2 underperformers? What is your process of, you get hired today, you're in tomorrow, you have 2 underperforming sales reps. How are you going to solve that? And I want to know their critical thinking. Are they going to come in and just be like, I'm just going to fire them? Or, like, just say something stupid? Like, I want to know what their process is going to be. Like, I want to hear something like, well, I want to first off, like, I want to build a relationship with each of those reps so that I could build a bridge with them and make sure that I understand why they're here, why they want to be here, what their goals are, what they're trying to accomplish. And so that I can tie, this is what I want a good sales manager saying, so that I can tie the KPIs of what the company needs to see from them to their goal, and then work with those and identify is it a will or a skill thing? right?
Mm.
Is it they're not doing the work, and that becomes an issue, and it's like, if we can't get them to do the work, I need to get them out and bring someone in that's willing to do the work. If it's a skill deficiency of, hey, maybe their closing rate's a little bit low, but I can do some reviews. I could watch them, see how they approach a customer, see how well that, they're closing over the phone, or how well they, when they're getting a certain objections. I could work on skill development with them, and I'm going to create a skill development plan where we want to see reasonable progress in a measurable period of time to see that they can actually be coached up, because I'd much rather coach someone up that's already here and willing than have to start over the process, because it's going to cost the company more money. So
Right.
that becomes a technical part of the interview, because I want to see how they solve that problem, because how well they
Hmm.
explain how they're going to solve that is going to help me know that they've actually solved this problem before in the past, and that they're actually pretty likely to be able to solve it once they come in. And so that could be the technical, is like literally giving them, it's like, how do you fix this? This isn't working. How are you going to fix it?
Yeah.
And not just getting vague things of like, well, I'm gonna coach them, and
Right.
I'm gonna hold them accountable. It's like, what's the plan? How are you going to do this? Like, coming in, you came in tomorrow. What is your plan going to be to get them up to KPI? So
Yeah.
that's something that you can do, is like testing their technical. On that, you have some other nuances within, how you do things, that you can, test them on, that maybe it's
Hmm.
like industry specific knowledge that you'd want to test their sales competencies on too, that you could throw in there. But that's how I'm going to do that, because in some of those leadership roles, like, you want to see how they're going to lead, manage, and hold accountable, really, the people that they're coming in to work with.
Yeah. That's kind of where my mind was going with it, was, laying out the scenarios of underperforming, um, how they're going to handle an underperforming team or individuals. And then,
Yeah.
um, what is your philosophy on, uh, what do you like to do for folks that are, how do you handle working with folks that are overperformers, or that are carrying 80% of the load, or doing 80% of the performance, versus, what's your time with those people versus time with the 80% that are producing 20% of the results? If
Yeah.
you catch my drift.
Yeah. So first off, I always start with, like, what's like the minimum KPI. So there's like ranges of KPIs, and so, like, I was just helping our my partner at the cleaning company. We're building, the sales team is growing. I think we have like 4 or 5 sales reps there. And this was a similar conversation we had today. And he's like, yeah, I have like this guy, and he's doing really great. These other ones, not as great, but like, I'm trying to figure this out. And it's like, okay, so what we have to come up with is like, what's the minimum KPI that's acceptable to actually continue to work here? I was like, that's the first thing.
Yeah.
So we start with like, and we scale them. It's like, okay, there's average. It's like, average is you get to keep your job. This is the KPI for
Yeah.
average. We have good, we have great, we have extraordinary. So like, those are the ranges. It's average, good, great, extraordinary. And so at each of those, you have a different, maybe it's a closing percentage rate,
Hmm.
booking rate, whatever the specific KPIs that are important to the business model. And so we have those, and then from there, it's like, if people are under average, like, we're gonna be moving them out of the organization relatively quickly. Like, if their activity is high and they have a high will and a high teachability index, we'll try to coach them for a couple of weeks, maybe a month, because they're really a hard worker, but their skills just need to get better. Like, we'll give them time, but otherwise we're gonna be coaching them out. But as far
Right.
as more time or less time, it's the same time. We're doing one-on-ones. Like, the sales manager would be one-on-ones with all of them, and be working with
Okay.
them all in their own different areas that they're wanting to improve in. So if maybe the best
Okay.
closer, is wanting to maybe ascend into a sales lead, or like a higher, like, they want to grow in a leadership role potentially over time. Okay, well, maybe in my coaching with them, it's going to be coaching them on leadership, and when we're talking leadership books, and because they're closing at an amazing rate, and that's not something that we're actively attacking, versus someone that's at average or trying to get to good is, hey man, like these 3 objections keep holding you up. So like every freaking day, all you need to be doing is practicing these 3 objections and how you're going to handle those over and over again. So it's, I wouldn't say different amounts of time. It's more so, in those coaching sessions, it's just different focuses.
Okay, that makes sense. It makes sense. I think like what I've seen happen over the years is that the top performers will get neglected because they don't have to.
Be
The
babysat.
manager feels, yeah, the manager's like, oh, they're fine, and then next thing you know, that top performer ends up getting bored or ends up quitting or going after another opportunity,
And that's why you still keep
and
meeting with them and keep about their specific personal, professional, financial goals that they also have. They're not the squeaky wheel because they're not the
right,
problem. And so it's like diverting the time. It's like we want to give all of them the time to help coach them up or coach them out. And,
yeah,
so it's like we don't want to neglect the top performer. It's like, oh, John's fine. Like he doesn't need anything. It's just like, well, let's keep working with John. And there's areas I'm sure John wants to get better in and how he can improve his skills. And maybe there's
hmm
other interests that he'd maybe want to move to another, maybe he'd want to do something else in the organization or he has future ambitions. And, if we don't know that, then we can't coach him to whatever that next thing is. But, especially top performers, they have goals because they're freaking out there cranking. So it's like
right,
we got to just harness that and coach them to whatever their individual goals. And that's why the one-on-ones, that like personal, professional, financial goal side, is that's why that part's important, because we're aware of where they're trying to go, and we always tie back to company performance, to personal incentive, and can coach them to that. And it's like, John, you were telling me you wanted this, but your activity was this week. Do you want to change your goal? Do you want to make less
yeah.
money or do what? No, I don't want to make less money. You kid, I got kids and all that. It's like, okay, great. Like, well, let's work on a plan to get you to where you need to be. So that's regardless
Do
of,
you got
yeah,
you got time for one more
sure. Let's do
topic?
it.
Okay, so um, what are you familiar with the Peter Principle?
Peter Principle. It sounds familiar.
Basically, when somebody is at a position or role that is beyond what they should be doing.
Their scope. Yeah. They're out of their
Yeah,
depth. They're out of their depths.
yeah.
They're they're treading water.
It's like you hire, I mean, we've had it happen here recently, and I just got a phone call from a guy that I hired, and unfortunately he just quit. But I hired him as a salesperson. He had worked in finance in the car business for quite a while, and just an awesome dude. I mean, the kind of guy you just want to go hang out with, and just good guy. He's good heart. He's gonna do the right thing. He's gonna treat people right. You just a good dude.
Yeah.
And he did okay in sales. He didn't do great, but he did okay. He did well. And sometimes the best sales managers aren't the best salespeople.
I'm not a
That's
great
in our
salesperson. I'm proof of that myself. Is like I do way better managing sales teams, like when I've done it in the past, than actually selling. Like I fumble and suck at it, but I'm way better at coaching this team
yeah.
to perform. So yeah.
And so he had that background of being in management roles, and the rest of the team really liked him. So we decided to make him a sales manager. And but the sales manager role was just too much. I mean, he just couldn't handle it,
Yeah.
and then the store wasn't performing,
Yeah.
so we ended up having to find somebody else to take on that role.
Yep.
And but we liked him. We wanted to keep him on the team, so we moved him back into a sales role, and he just couldn't take the hit to his ego
Yep. Yeah.
and ended up quitting.
Yeah.
So it sucks because he was a great guy to have on the team, but not in the role that he was in.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you ever encounter anything like that where you put somebody in a role that they shouldn't be in, but you still want them on the team, what's your thoughts on that? And
Yep.
I mean, there's probably no perfect way to navigate those kind of situations, but
Yeah, dealt with it multiple times in multiple companies. It's like in the humble, hungry, people smart matrix, you have the person that's like, they're humble, they're maybe not hungry enough to like figure out like to perform in the role, and then you have the people smart, so it's like the lovable slacker. It's like everyone loves the
Yeah.
guy or girl, so it's like we don't have the heart to fire them, but they just don't get any freaking dang work done over here, and it's like they're just like, it's like, yeah, so yeah, that's the person that in those cases. And so basically, okay, so I was having this conversation about a week ago with one of the other. I won't say the company because I don't want anything to get back to the
Yeah. Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
But at one of the companies, and they were telling me, they're like, what do you think if we moved this person into this other role, because they can't do this that well, and so like, what if we just like found another role for them to do? And so my answer to that is always, we build the accountability chart for a company for what the company requires to be successful. We don't fill people in and make up fucking
Yeah.
roles for their inability to actually perform within the company. So that my mindset on it is like, we build the accountability chart for what's actually required for the company to be successful. We backfill the names of all the people that we have, and if there is another role that's going to open up that person's skill sets actually make sense, like you would hire them off of the street to go and do that other role, and they would actually do a good job at it, sure. But a lot of times, and I've done this, that's why I can, speaking to it, because I've made up roles in companies in the past where it's like, oh, this person is they're such a nice lady, and everyone loves them, and like they put them in the role, and it's like, get nothing done, and then we end up firing them anyways. And so
Yeah.
definitely had to deal with that. And that's the way that I have to go back to it, is like, what does the company require to be successful? What does that accountability chart look like? And does this name fit on our accountability chart, or could they be coached up to actually fit in on that accountability chart? And if the answer is no, it's like, we'll just try to work with them to transition them smoothly, where they get a soft landing. It's like, hey, John, like, this is unconventional, and like, this is an unconventional thing. Like, we need you to go find another job. Like, maybe we cut them immediately, give them a severance, or maybe we, have them do a slow transition into another role at another company over a couple weeks or a month, give them some time if we really care about, the relationship, which we do. So like, we just try to work with them to transition them out as best as we can with like, with care. And
Right.
that's typically how we handle it. But yeah, it is tough when you're trying to juggle those people. But you could always go back to, and this is what I told that partner. I'm like, okay, let's look at, and we were doing our one-on-one. I was like, let's look at the accountability chart. So where would this person go? And he's like, yeah, I don't really know where. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, there's the answer to the question. So if this person either needs to be coached up, or they're going to end up getting coached out. Is the painful answer.
Yeah. 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 It's never a fun predicament to be in. That's for sure.
No,
Yeah.
no, never. It's not. It's the worst. And I've had, and the other mistake I've made in the past too. I was talking on another podcast with a buddy of mine, the guy that sold the software company, is like
Hmm.
over titling roles where I hired people as like COO and like
Hmm.
these high titles, and it's like the business was doing $1 million a year, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, you don't need
Yeah.
those titles. But then the business grows, and then you need to hire like a director of operations, but now you have the COO that's like literally the equivalent of like an operations coordinator maybe. And now it's
Yeah.
like, what do you do? And so I've had to demote people from those titles into lower titles, and most of the time it ends up messy and they quit.
Yeah.
Or they stay, and then they try to meddle with everything that they were meddling with in the past, and so then you have to fire them. And so that's just
Yeah.
the experiences that I've had with that, and made those mistakes. And so it's yeah, that's character building. So
Well,
yeah.
man, man, I wish we need to do this more, buddy. Tell you
Yeah.
what, I like these kind of conversations. We ought to got to get together sometime soon, man.
Yeah, absolutely. This will be a fun I think this will be a fun episode too for people because it's like just like very there's like very specific tactical things people could do and like real world lessons of things that have happened and these are yeah, all painful lessons that things that we've both had to learn and
Yeah,
it's a never-ending journey of learning. So,
yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I feel like I'm in middle school, high school right now for the dealership entrepreneurial game, and I'm, very. I mean, I want to make this company huge.
yeah.
I want to make it as big as I possibly can, and stuff like this is really puts things into perspective, and it's not that complicated. I mean, and it
No.
applies to all businesses. The
Yep.
one-on-one thing is huge, and I know that I should be doing one-on-ones, and I have them on my calendar, and I've done them at times, and then just all the crud gets in the way.
Yeah.
All these
Yep.
distractions, and
Yep.
so it's like it's just a it's just a focus and just being disciplined.
Yeah.
Discipline is so huge.
Treating it as
What's
an
what?
appointment with a customer. It's just like, no, we are doing this. It's just like it's an appointment with a customer. Like, would you just blow off
Hmm.
a customer if they were supposed to meet you to talk about an RV, you know?
Yeah, exactly,
And
exactly.
I say it's arguably more important because your
Hmm.
team is going to be there for days, weeks, months, or years, hopefully, and that customers only be there one time.
Hmm. Exactly, exactly.
So, man, this has been fun though. This is I think this is going to be a great episode. I think people will get a lot of good takeaways out of it. But if anyone wants to connect with you, or where should people go? Like I don't know whether it's website or Instagram or anything like that, and we'll make sure it's in the show notes as well.
Yeah, my OnlyFans. No, if somebody wants to connect with me personally, they're more than welcome to hit me up on any social media. It's Jakoby Moore, JAKOBYMOORE. You can find me on Facebook or um, I don't know what my Instagram thing is. I think it's just Kobe or something like that. I don't know. Most of my friends and family call me Kobe. So, but yeah, or just hit up Cody and he can give you my info. I'm happy to chat with anybody. Um, our company is McLean's RV. You can go to our website, mcleansrv.com, or find us on social media. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you being here, and for everyone listening, take some of those nuggets, implement into your business, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.